In the meantime, we go into the second conversation I was talking about earlier, a proposed policy shift in the education sector. The federal government proposing 12-3 model as against what is obtainable, the 6-3-3-4 model. And we have in the studio Professor Hussain Tukur, a professor of policy analysis. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate your patience.
No problem.
Yes, when you hear about this, so many tinkering, if you like, reforms are being taking place in Nigeria. Virtually all sectors have been affected. Now the education sector, the federal government is looking at the need to rejig perhaps the model that is in existence. Do you think this is a right thinking coming at the right time?
Well, reforms always come in different forms with different leadership and different ideas. Ideas have their time. Sometimes when they come, leaders do queue in and decide to go along with the ideas for reform, change, and so on and so forth. Not only the educational sector of Nigeria, but all other sectors has over the years experienced different policy shift, reform, policy termination, and so on and so forth. So the education sector is not new. What people should be concerned about is the nature of the reform and the efficiency of the reform when implemented. For instance, we had so many reforms right from the 60s. If I may recall, the national policy for education, that is the 6-3-3-4 system, was initiated following a conference, curriculum conference in 1969. And by 1977, that policy was introduced. It was introduced with the approval of National Council of Education, and the implementation began, and it was fully implemented, that is in 1983, with the primary school having 6 years,
primary,
yes, junior secondary school, senior secondary school 3 years, and the tertiary institution, which was 3 years, then became 4. And since then, that has been implemented. The content of that included technology acquisition, technical education, entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. And over faced so many reforms. And these reforms were virtually the same. And if we were to assess the implementation of that vis-a-vis the 2004 9-3-4, we find there is no difference because the 6-3 were not collapsed. It was the structure was in place. We still have junior secondary school and we have primary school. So virtually the 6-3-3 system is still in existence and intact. So the new thinking that there should be 12 years basic education is being implemented elsewhere. But the peculiarities of countries differ. The population, the resources, the framework of implementation of Nigeria.
About millions, about change 12 basic education.
Is up to openings in the university that is more than 250,000. So if secondary school all over the country can graduate 8 million people, and the spaces for admission to the universities are only 250. How many?
Serious shortfall.
Yes, and they say polytechnic and other tertiary education will not also take more than 200,000. So you see the gap. Now, what is essential is to give every citizen basic education that requires him to have skills that are employable, that allow him to get self-employment, and also to be a good citizen. Being a good citizen is more important sometimes than getting higher education. So this is very essential.
Right. Okay. So though it is at the level of proposal, I understand there should be the policy think tank and all the critical stakeholders will have to deliberate on it. But then what is important now is to have to guarantee even the basic education.
Definitely.
Which is very fundamental.
Yes.
Okay, I understand it's almost time, but then we have to, we promise to give Nigerians opportunity to also share their thoughts. You can call in, the phone number will soon be on your screen. You can call to share your thoughts on either the first conversation about security or the policy shift in the education sector. Before the calls come in, yes, talking about basic education, especially collaboration between federal and states. Shouldn't this form the fulcrum, if you like, or the focus of this conversation now? We have universal basic education, which is there. We have the UBEC, I mean the fund now, basic education fund and so on, which has not been utilized effectively. Many would tell you that it is difficult because it requires counterpart funding. Yes. So states are not interested in that. Yes. And that is why we're having gaps. Definitely. Shouldn't this be part of the conversation? Should it even form the basis of the conversation?
It should be one of the bases of conversation, because the constitutions in primary education.
Okay, maybe you hold a bit. Okay, I think we have a caller on the line. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, who do we have on the line?
Shatima Kudima calling from Maiduguri.
Great, Shatima. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Thank you. Because seven years in the primary school, then 7 years in the primary school, 5 years in the secondary school. Then you proceed to, to higher education. that is university. And I changed, all of a sudden, change come, where we spend 6 years in primary school, 3 years in junior secondary school, 3 years in senior secondary school, then 4 years in the higher institution. But this change, honestly speaking, to me, it will not help Nigeria.
Okay.
And it will not help the education system.
Okay.
One cannot.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Right. Just one has to stay. What would you suggest?
Government is not forthcoming, and therefore with a change there is need a substantial resources in terms of training, in terms of content, in terms of teachers, not only the teachers, the content, the laboratories for the technical aspect. So I believe the best option is to support state government.
Okay. Galvanize a kind of funding.
A galvanized funding in order to support states to ensure that the current system is efficient enough to produce the quality of students, patriotic citizens, that will be future leaders.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor, for your informed perspective. And of course, it's an evolving conversation.
Definitely.
You know, the forum is about to take up, and then critical stakeholders would have to dissect the issues, including yourself, I'm sure. Thank you very much once again for coming.
Thank you very much.
And viewers, that's a wrap. We hope we could have given you more time to also participate, but due to time factor, we have to end the conversation here. We appreciate all of you. On behalf of the technical crew, my name is Shafi'u Suleiman. Have a wonderful evening ahead.